Welcome back to IPS Live, the official podcast for Inside Pack Sports. The season opener is here for NC State, the Wolfpack hosting East Carolina this season. We're actually taping this podcast and posting it on YouTube as well. So if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe at Inside Pack Sports. Also, you can find us anywhere on all the podcast outlets. We are talking East Carolina football today with Jared Shafit, the host of the Boneyard podcast. Jared, how you doing?
I'm doing well, James. Thanks for having me back on the pod.
Yeah, man, it's been a couple years. We did it back in 2022 when NC State went to Greenville. This year, in East Carolina's coming to Raleigh, and so I want to start there. How do you think, or what's the vibe? What's the vibe coming out of the Military Bowl win for East Carolina? Now you go right back at it again with NC State in 2025. How's the fan base looking, feeling towards this game?
I'll say the fan base feels very confident. I don't see anybody that's calling like a straight up victory, and I don't see that really on either side. But I do think that there's confidence on the ECU side of, hey, like, we know we can go in there. We know that we've done it before. Yes, it's a different team that's done it before, but we're confident in this bunch of guys. They've been in this fight before, so we're confident that we're going to be able to go into it. A lot of confidence in the offense. There's a little bit of worry there on the defense in some places, but I don't think that I don't think that's going to be a huge concern later on in the year. So yeah, confidence is just kind of high right now.
I like that you said later on in the year, because I think it's funny when you lead up to the start of the season, it feels like everything's about that one game. And you know it, though. I mean, teams change, teams develop throughout the course of the season, where win or lose, you can get better, you can improve. You may know, I don't know what East Carolina finished in 2019, but I know they went to Raleigh and lost that game 35-6. And I bring that up because NC State went 4-8 that year and was not good at all. And, that game was not an indication of what NC State would be the rest of the year. And I think that I'm glad you brought that up, because it's worth pointing out that win or lose for both of these teams, the expectation is you're going to have some development, you're going to have some improvement throughout the course of the year. And I wanted to ask you for East Carolina, where are some of those spots where you feel like, okay, maybe there could be a little bit of struggle here early on the first week or two of the year, but there's some upside in terms of moving throughout the season?
I think the easy spot to look at is maybe the secondary right now. Mm-hmm. There's when you read Phil Steele and you read Athlon Sports, or you read whatever publication you want to coming into the season, the thing you always look at are returning starters, right? And on both sides of the ball, you're not going to see a bunch of them for East Carolina. I feel like in this day and age of college football, you're not going to see a bunch of them for any team. But the thing that those numbers don't say is there's a lot of returning production. They may not have actually been counted or listed as starters in games last year, but these guys have 400, 500 snaps under their belt and have played in big-time games, big-time matchups, played in the Military Bowl last year, played in – several of these guys have played in the game in 22 against NC State, so they know what they're doing. But I'd say the secondary, you're losing – some guys there, of course, Chavon Rebel, who ended up getting drafted by the Cowboys. You didn't have him for most of the season last year with a torn ACL. You're losing some other guys in the secondary, but you're bringing back Tegan Wilk, who transferred from ECU to Houston and is now back at ECU. You got Jamarly Riddle, who is, Jamarly Riddle is going to be a sophomore this year, and he looks like the real deal. He looks like another Jaquan McMillan. He looks like another Chavon Rebel at ECU. He's going to play safety this year. So I think there's a lot of question marks, but we've seen these guys produce in the past, and they've done well. Really, I think a lot of people look to the defense as the area that maybe gives the most concern, but that's because they see these numbers. Oh, these guys weren't starters. Yeah, but you're bringing in you're bringing a guy back like J.D. Lampley, right? Like this is a true dude on the D line or on the edge. You're bringing back Raheem Craig, right? Another big time linebacker. You're bringing guys back that have been there. Sam Donka, Xavier McIver comes back after transferring to East Tennessee. Excuse me, East Tennessee State fans. I'm sorry, that is the second time I've done it. I know how it feels. You are East Tennessee State, not Eastern Tennessee. But no, there's a lot of guys that are back here and have been in these situations and have been on this team. They just don't have that start or that S next to their name in the stat sheet.
I want to go to the offensive side first. I did a podcast here recently, and I said, one of the questions marked for NC State is their secondary, but I think they're going to be tested right away. I think East Carolina has one of the top 2 or 3 wide receiver cores that NC State's going to face this year. I would even put them. I can make an argument for them up to 1. I really am. I'm a huge fan of Anthony Smith. I was a huge fan of his when he was at NC State. I thought he should have played more. I don't understand why he didn't. Anybody who listens to me know I've been saying that for multiple years. Love Yannick Smith's tape. I watched his tape here in the offseason. I think he is a future NFL guy. And then I'm really intrigued by Jaquez Pettaway. East Carolina, for NC State fans out there, you may not know this, East Carolina went out and landed a transfer portal addition in Jaquez Pettaway, who was a top 60 recruit coming out of high school, went to Oklahoma first, didn't play his first couple years there, which happens sometimes at places. Doesn't mean he can't play. But when you add him to those 2 receivers and you've got Pettaway in the slot, Jared, man, I think for me, the strength by far with East Carolina is this wide receiver core. And it's why I think it can be a shootout here on Thursday night.
Yeah, so last year when Coach John David Baker came in as the new offensive coordinator, he kept preaching tempo, kept preaching speed, right? And that's what he did, bringing in a guy like Anthony Smith, brought in a ton of speed. Yannick Smith also has a lot of that speed. You brought in London Montgomery in the running back room that is another top-end speed guy. And then you brought in 2 quarterbacks last year that could run the ball and had speed. But now when you look at this wide receiver core, when you look at those 3 guys that you named, those are some of the fastest guys in college football. And with that, ECU wants to have an explosive play. Their goal is to have an explosive play every drive. So if they can throw a ball and hit a 60-yard pass somehow, that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to beat you over the top and let Kaden Hauser throw it over your head and let those guys go run under it and get it. I believe during camp this year, ECU, the offense alone, had 4 guys hit 23 miles per hour running consistently. And 2 of those guys, Anthony Smith and Quez Pettaway, another guy, Mike Wright, who's a quarterback that has 16 starts under his belt in the Big Ten and the SEC, who's going to be the backup quarterback this year. He's the fastest of them all. He can hit 23. And then don't forget the tight end room, Desirio Riles. If you go back to the Military Bowl and watch Rajay Harris's run to kind of cap it all off and seal the deal for East Carolina, Desirio Riles is outrunning him, outpacing him to catch up to him and block downfield for Rajay Harris. And this is your tight end. This is a tight end that can almost run 23 miles an hour. So there's going to be a lot of speed on this offense, and that's kind of what the MO is. They're going to kill you with tempo, and when they lull you to sleep a little bit, when they get you tired, they're going to throw it over top of you.
What are some areas you think East Carolina wants to see Kaden Hauser improve at this year?
Yeah, I mean the easy one is got to protect the ball better. I believe 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
So you got to protect the ball better. Look, last year it was a completely new offense with a bunch of new guys, new offensive coordinator, 2 new quarterbacks, and there was a lot of turnovers, especially early in the season. Jake Garcia was a turnover machine, and then Kaden Hauser comes in. I think he had 3 turnovers still in that Charlotte game, which was insane. That was kind of when he took over from Jake Garcia in that game. So there's three turnovers right there. I'll say this: you could see him start to read defenses better in the second half, and you could say, okay, well, you were playing lesser competition. Well, you're still playing these teams that a lot of them were still trying to get into a bowl game, especially like a North Texas. At that point, like they'd had a pretty good season, and then you went in there and helped put a stop to their magical season. What I'll say, I think this is the best I've seen Kaden Hauser look since he's been in Greenville. This guy walks around with swagger. He's a leader on this team. He's ready to go out there and fight with his boys, but also the most and I've talked to him a couple times in the past couple weeks. He's healthy, man. Last year coming into the season, he had pretty much won the starter's job in camp, but he had a broken wrist late in camp and was dealing with that most of the season. He's healthy now, and he feels good. And talking to him, that's the first thing he always tells me is I feel great. So that's what I'm looking for this year. Is if he can stay healthy, reduce those turnovers, and be able to hit those guys in his second year in the offense, I think that's going to help a ton.
How do you feel about the offensive line?
It's kind of like the defense that I was talking about earlier. You lose a bunch of guys, but at the same time, I've always said the offensive line has been one of the weaker points of East Carolina. The offensive line, it feels like there's more athleticism, more size on this offensive line than I've seen in years past. A lot bigger, and you can tell that that's like the MO in recruiting, making sure that, hey, we're having some of the biggest guys that we can. It'll be interesting to see how they replace it. Jamarian McCrimmon, I mean, I talked to him. His whole goal is to be the best tackle in this conference, and I think that he could be. He's a very light-spoken dude, but he's a baller when it comes time to do it. Also, you got a bunch of guys that you're bringing in from the FCS ranks. That's kind of been the MO lately, but don't forget like a guy like Carson Jones coming in from Maryland, I believe. Either him or Preston Carr. Preston Carr's on the defense. Sorry, but those are the guys that you're looking for. I mean, Emmanuel Poku, Cooper Ternavsky. You've got a bunch of guys that you've brought in from the FCS level, and it's just kind of refilling, right? We'll see what happens, but I know Coach Maddox has had this team getting right.
What do you think concerns East Carolina offensively going into this game? Like when you look at NC State's defense in this first game, do you think there's something there that concerns them within NC State?
I don't think it's the secondary. I think if anything, it's going to be the D-line. Just because, once again, you can say with the offensive line, like I think the skill positions at ECU, you can put them up next to just about anybody, especially anybody on our schedule, in my opinion. I think we can go toe-to-toe with them. But when you start looking at the offensive line, they do concern me. And it's kind of, since you've had to plug so many pieces in over these last couple of years, it's interesting to see, like, okay, how are we going to fit? How are things going to shake out, especially in that first week of the season? You never know. I mean, until you put the ball on the ground and blow the whistle, you never know. So that's kind of what concerns me is can we keep the quarterback upright, and can we get some decent runs out there?
Give me an X factor for East Carolina's offense in this game.
I think they got to be able to run the ball.
Okay.
That's and I said that last year in
Right.
the Military Bowl was if you can run the ball, you're gonna win the ball game. I'm not gonna say that if you run the ball X amount of yards, you're gonna win the ball game, but I do think that you've got to establish the run early, so that way you're opening up plays over the top that we were talking about those explosive plays. That's kind of what I'm thinking that they have to do.
Rajay Harris rushed for 220 yards in this game. He is no longer at East Carolina, but look, they're going to have good running backs. They're going to have talented running backs. What I do want to ask you, though, is I think the bigger surprise for NC State was Kaden Hauser rushing the football in that game. Coming into the game, he had not shown that he was much of a running threat, but he had 13 carries for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think you're going to see NC State maybe focus more on that. But do you think that was maybe NC State specific, or do you think that's a trait that ECU is going to try and build on this year?
He's done it a couple of times, and he did it a couple of times throughout the year last year. If you're playing college football 26 or whatever, he'd be like a backfield creator. Maybe not a true dual threat quarterback, but he's not going to take many sacks, or at least going to do whatever he can to get out of it. I think that's what it is. Him getting a better feel for the offense and being able to scramble. I think that's the biggest thing for him. I don't think that it's going to be a major part of his game, but when he does it in a way similarly to how Whole Nailers used to be, where, hey, I'm going to just throw caution to the wind and go get the first down if I can. They started calling him Vanilla Vic.
There you go.
After the game last year.
Hey, well earned. Like I thought that was it's funny, man. Like I thought that was the difference in the game, and that's with Harris rushing for 220. I mean, the fact that you got Hauser gave you, and there were timely runs. That's the thing, is they were critical third downs. You know, you had a couple rushing touchdowns that I thought were big.
That's the thing with East Carolina, and that's John David Baker, the offensive coordinator. That's his kind of thing, is they've got their script. They look at the analysis. They know the numbers. You may see them lined up on 4th and 6 from like the 49 on their side of the field, and they may run it. They may say, hey, the numbers tell us here to go for it. And if the numbers say to go, they're going to go. And you'll see them do some things that you wouldn't expect them to do, and kind of keep defenses on their heels. I remember that there was I believe it was a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 in the Military Bowl, where they just kind of ran it right up the middle. And I mean, this is a time where when the defense is going to play zone and probably spread it out a little bit, and they were able to catch them napping and ran it up the middle on them to get a first down. And you're going to see that they're going to play the numbers, and that's just kind of what John David Baker does. Very smart guy, coming from the Lane Kiffin coaching tree. That coaching tree, coming from Ole Miss, he's an interesting cat to talk to when it comes to talking X's and O's on offense.
I think the expectation is both of these teams are going to be driven by their offenses this year. When you look at all the pieces returning. Similar question for the defense that I asked you about for the offense. What do you think concerns East Carolina's defense with NC State coming into this matchup?
I think getting pressure on CJ Bailey, I think that's the number one thing that they've got to do. That you saw it in the Military Bowl, and I get it. It's a different year. He's got a little more maturity under his belt. He's seen some more now, but still, as much as some NC State fans don't want to call it this, it's a big game. It's a big time game, prime time, Thursday night rivalry game in your home stadium. How does getting hit a couple times? How does he react to that? We saw it last year in the Military Bowl. They were able to hit him early, and he struggled in the first half. Then NC State made adjustments at halftime and starts coming back, and that's when I started getting worried. But that's what I want to see is, hey, they're gonna try to control the run. They're gonna try to make you throw it over top, but if they can control the run, I think they'll be fine. I'm not. I know I said I was worried about the secondary earlier. I am, but when it comes to skill guys at the wide receiver room, our guys have been going up against our guys all summer long, and at the end of the day, I like our guys' skill at wide receiver a little bit more than I like your guys.
So you like Anthony Smith, Yannick Smith, Petaway better than Noah Rogers, Wesley Grimes, Terrell Anderson, that group. And yeah, go ahead.
I like that. Hey, like if you're going up tempo and speed all year long throughout the summer, East Carolina doesn't have an indoor practice facility yet. It's coming. But you're in Greenville in the heat during the summer doing this. You're conditioned to play with anybody and to cover anybody. So I'm not concerned about that.
One area I think for NC State that gives them an advantage in this matchup is the running back position. Bringing back Hollywood Smothers. In my opinion, Hollywood is NC State's best player. I think
agree.
he is in a position to be a star this year if he stays healthy. You go and look at the numbers last year against East Carolina in that game. He had 15 carries for 139 and he had another 42 catching. And I think NC State fans were mad he didn't get more touches. We'll see how that works this year, but I think that could be an X factor for NC State is that they have a guy they know they can rely on at the running back. I mean, what's been the feedback you've received or you've heard on ECU's thoughts on Hollywood?
I mean, no, and they're not gonna call him out by name, but everybody knows that Hollywood Smothers is the guy, right? He's the dude at NC State, and honestly, if I had to pick one guy that scares me at NC State, it's not Justin Jolie or CJ Bailey. It is Hollywood Smothers, and that's something that I know that Josh Aldridge, the defensive coordinator, and Roy Tesh, the D-line coach, I know that that's something that they're going to focus on heavily. I wouldn't be surprised to see them sending more guys in the rush and try to jam up those holes, especially early on. Like I said, I think getting to Smothers, getting to Bailey early on, putting some hits on them, that is the big piece for ECU if they want to win this ballgame. Controlling the line is the biggest thing in rivalry games, and I believe it to be true in this game too.
You saw in 2022, I thought the crowd at East Carolina played a major factor in them coming back in that game. I think that game was 21-7 at the half. State kind of controlled it a little bit, and ECU just, I thought, took over in the second half, and State barely held on to win that one. How much of a factor do you think the crowd's going to be in this, especially with it being a season opener in Raleigh?
Yeah, I mean, you can't put a number on the crowd, right? But it definitely helps, especially, I mean, playing at home, playing in a rivalry game at home, like it's unfortunate for ECU that it's a Thursday night, 7 o'clock under the lights in Carter-Finley. I think that's just going to get them even more amped up. But, I mean, this is a team, and I know we're a couple years removed from this, but if you go back and look at, like, BYU's numbers at home at night, I think they had lost, like, 3 games in the last 10 years at home in night games. Or like, it was, like, an insane number. Like, they hadn't lost a game in 15 years or something. I remember them putting that stat out. And then East Carolina, in the year that they ended up playing Coastal in the bowl game, I guess that was that would have been 22. Went into Provo and beat them in Provo under the lights and a raucous atmosphere. So this coaching staff, while it's a different coaching staff, Blake Harrell's been there. He's been to games at Carter-Finley. He's played this team. He knows what these guys need to do. A lot of these guys that played in that game are still on this team. They may not have been starters, but they were there. They've experienced that. They experienced the Military Bowl. They're still here. they're not going to let their emotions get to them too badly.
All right, we are here with Jared from the Boneyard Podcast, and Jared, we want to do it here. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. We wanted to keep this one to right around 30 minutes. Can't let you go though without getting a prediction. I will be giving my prediction on our official game preview. I know you've probably given one already if you guys have taped something, but if you don't want to give a score, that's fine. But how do you see this game maybe playing out on Thursday night?
I think the line is still State minus 11.5.
Yeah.
I think that's a little too generous for State. Maybe that's bias on my part.
No, I agree with you actually.
When I saw that first number come out, I don't think. I think there's a lot being made about returning starters, and I know I've touched on that a couple times. There's a lot of production that's coming back. There's a lot of snaps, a lot of experience on this team. I'm not gonna say ECU win. I don't know about that. I will say I do think that it's a one score game either way. I think that this is going to be one of the top games of week one. And if it's a shame. It's a shame it's on ACC Network. It should definitely be on one of the major channels.
Yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of the ACC Network myself. Yeah, like I said, we're going to have our official prediction here on the Game Day podcast. Really want to appreciate Jared for coming on. So, Jared, if you can, before we get going, tell everybody where you can find your workout this week.
Yeah, you can find us at Boneyard Podcast on social media, at the Boneyard Podcast on TikTok. You follow along on YouTube. We go live Sunday or Monday night every week, and then that video stays there. You can also follow us on X or Twitter and watch along there. This week, yeah, you can keep following there. Just we'll be posting throughout the week and engaging. So check us out, Boneyard Podcast on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us.
NC State versus East Carolina Thursday night. Like I said earlier, we will be having up our official podcast on IPS Live later. If you haven't done so here at YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel at Inside Pack Sports. Also, check out the website, www.insidepacksports.com. So for this edition of IPS Live, the official podcast for Inside Pack Sports, my name's James Henderson. Joining me tonight, I had Jared from the Boneyard Podcast. Make sure you join us again next time.